All right, the first taco variation we're gonna make a buffalo style mushroom taco. So I'm gonna start off with some roasted mushrooms. This is kind of a take on sort of the traditional buffalo style wings that you serve with celery and carrots and some ranch. We're gonna do the same, but in a taco, veganized. All right, so let's start off with some mushrooms. So these are a cluster oyster mushroom, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and slice these, and you're basically just using these petals, all these little petals here, okay? I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of separate the petals, okay? What we're gonna end up doing is we're roasting these. We're gonna roast them on a high heat, about 400 degrees. I'm gonna roast them for about 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, so I'm just separating these petals here. And when you roast them, what you're doing is you're really removing the moisture, okay? And you're concentrating the flavors there. So I'm gonna roast these for a little while. We're gonna make the sauce, and by the time these are done to pull out, I will toss them in the sauce, and then I'll put them back in the oven to finish off the tacos. All right, that looks beautiful. All right. Do the same thing with one more. You can do this with really any mushrooms. Any mushrooms, you can do it with buttons. I just love oysters. Oysters you can find just about anywhere these days. Oyster mushrooms. So I like to use oysters because they have these petals that you can just basically tear. I'm just tearing the larger ones. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna roast these with a little bit of olive oil, a little salt and pepper. So if you wanna make a nice little variation on this, you can do some cauliflower as well. Doing the same thing we're doing with the mushroom petals here, you can just do with small cauliflower florets as well. That could work really nicely. All right, that looks good. Let's go ahead and add some olive oil. Just enough to coat. Some salt and pepper. All right. Let's toss those up. So let's grab our non-stick sheet. You can use parchment. I like to use these Silpats quite a bit. They're reusable. Just go ahead and spread that. You want to make sure that these are in a single layer. Otherwise, if they're overlapping, they're not going to roast evenly. Okay. All right, those are ready to go. If it needs a little bit more oil, you can hit it with just a touch. All right, those are ready to go in the oven. All right, so we're gonna make the sauce that's gonna coat these mushrooms, the buffalo sauce. But first, let's start off with the garnishes, all right? So we have some celery here and some carrots. I'm just gonna trim the bottoms of those off. And I have a mandolin here. You can use a truffle shaver, you can use a mandolin, you can do this by knife if you wish. I just like to get these very, very thin. So you can see the mandolin slices these paper thin, which is quite nice. Just be very careful, it will bite you. So I have gotten bitten by this mandolin far too many times. Add some carrots as well. All right. We'll do the same thing with the carrots. So just really thin sliced here. Just be really careful when it comes to using the mandolin. Let's gather those up. This is a nice garnish for these tacos. Toss those well. Put them in a bowl. All right, let's make this buffalo sauce here. I'm gonna use a little bit of shallot here, just a fine dice. All right, just a little bit here. Let's heat up that pan. Start with a little bit of oil in there, just a touch. And go ahead and add that shallot to the pan. So I'm going to bring that down to a low to medium. Once you get a little bit of color on that shallot, let's go ahead and add some vegan butter here. Plenty of butter to this. All right, so now we're going to add a number of ingredients. I have lots of butter. I mean, essentially a buffalo sauce is butter and hot sauce. That's all it is at the end of the day. We're mixing it up a little bit, adding the shallots in there. Melt that butter. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of ketchup or tomato paste, you can. So I add a little bit of ketchup in there just to dilute the hot sauce that's going in there because otherwise it can be scorching hot. All right, next, I like a good hot sauce. I don't like to show labels too much, but Frank's hot sauce is the best when it comes to a buffalo sauce, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some of that, plenty of that hot sauce. And that's really it. We're gonna season it a little bit. You don't need to add too much salt. Where's the pepper? We don't need to add too much salt because the hot sauce is already quite salty along with the butter and the ketchup. So we're gonna go ahead and add plenty of pepper though. And we're basically cooking this down and we're gonna let it reduce for a minute on a low medium. And that's what you want. You want a nice sheen in that sauce. So you can see it's starting to slightly simmer and you can tell it's starting to thicken up quite a bit. And that's really due to the sugars also by adding the ketchup. That's gonna thicken up. We're gonna just reduce it for another, I'd say 2 minutes or so on a simmer, and it's gonna be good to go. Super aromatic, that smells so good. All right, so we're gonna check on those mushrooms. Ah, those look nice, all those little crispy bits. All right, you can see you got those little crispy corners here. That looks nice. That looks so nice. All right, well, let's get these all off. Let's toss them in that hot sauce. Let's toss those up. Oh, that looks good. That smells friggin' delicious. These are ready to go. These saucy, spicy ass mushrooms. All right, let's go ahead and plate those up. So we have those tortillas that have been steaming. They're so nice. All right, so let's start off by adding those buffalo mushrooms. Yum. The aroma of these mushrooms are amazing. A little sloppy, but we're gonna add a little bit of that celery and carrot to the top there. Kind of cools down that buffalo sauce a bit. They're so freaking good. We're gonna finish that with a vegan ranch. There's lots of them on the market, or you can make your own. I'm gonna go ahead and just finish that with a little bit of vegan ranch on top. All right, let me finish that with a little bit of parsley. There you have a perfect addition to your game day menu. Oh, dude. I'm just checking real quick. Almost. Oh, it's fucking good, dude.